Imagine, a book for Band-Aid by David Bailey, published in July 1985 to coincide with Band-Aid awareness and the big concerts and the gigs which Bob Geldof did, and to raise awareness of the drought and the suffering of children and families and stuff in Ethiopia, Sudan, I think, and Somalia. So this was published in 1985. It's 80 pages, it's black and white, it's 8.5 or nearly 9 by 12. It's got this back cover which has got Kevin Gender, director of Band-Aid, discussion on it, and I guess an introduction at the end, and there's a Thames and Hudson £5 price tag on the back of it. From our first conversation, Bailey offered to do whatever he could to help Band-Aid in its efforts to draw the public's attention to the horrendous famine in Africa. Within a few days of our discussion, he was on board a cargo plane carrying 40 tons of famine relief supplies to Sudan. He spent 1 week touring the refugee camps and feeding centres along the Ethiopian-Sudanese border and in the Red Sea province of Sudan, witnessing the extent of the tragedy that had overtaken the peoples of these areas. These photographs are a record of his week. Obviously, then, goes on to the extent and unimaginable condition the people were in, which is illustrated in this book. It's an interesting book, and I have to admit, even though it's an amazing course, I've got nothing about it. I find it a little bit of a weird book. I'll draw that out in a minute, but I thought, because I had this, and because this week or last week, Bailey, who has introduced his new book, which is about 2,000 quid, which is a table-sized book with a table, but it's a massive book, a new book. Now, I like Bailey's studio work, the classic stuff with the Rolling Stones and everything like that. He's a phenomenal player in the business and a phenomenal, industry professional, and he was great at what he did and stuff like that. And I've got no disrespect to David Bailey in the context of that. However, I find this little book a little bit weak and horrible, to be honest. I'm going to admit it. And I thought I would just share the book with you a little bit and show you some of the pictures. Some of the pictures are a little bit gory and are necessary to show you, I think, in the YouTube context. This is a preface by William Golding, and when I was asked to write the preface, I was sent a sheaf of the photographs which David Bailey had taken in the book. So I examined them all, and I'm not sure I shall ever be the same again. It is clever and an awful book, but this page is harmless, and you read it, and at the end, without distress. If you're worldly wise, you will put the book down then. This is a warning. If you look further, you will be caught. Most of the photographs are as harmless as this first page, and that is the real cleverness of the book. For the pictures are up David Bailey Street, taken with the careful artistry you would expect for him. Pictures of beautiful, glossy, black people, sometimes in state as near nature as possible. Just wording, I'm not really sure about it. So anyway, okay, so this was in 1985. This is Bailey 75, 85. This is David Bailey at the top of his game for 25, 30 years, right? So let's just run through some of the shots. Not all of them, because like I said, because I feel that there's a lot of stuff which is showing private parts and stuff, and it's all right in the context of what he shot it in, but I don't want to put it into public domain via this video. But I will show you certain aspects of it, okay? So this is David Bailey, 30 years into in his prime, and he's got a week to shoot this. A week's a long time. I get it, I smell it, I see it, I understand it, I've done it. I've been to Ethiopia, I've covered the famines, I've been there for a little over a week, I've shot this sort of stuff. I get the extremities of it, I get the danger, I get the emotion which you get when you're shooting this, of children suffering. It doesn't matter who they are, what they are, it's children suffering, and mothers, and families. It's horrendous. So when you're out there, you think, I'm going to do this justice, I'm going to do this really proud. Now, just the fact that it's Bailey going out and doing it is going to raise awareness. It's going to lift a few people's eyes and go, oh yeah, David Bailey's out there doing it. Fine, I get that. I get why he did it, but I just don't think it's a good job. I think it's badly printed. I think some of it's badly shot. I think it's badly edited. And that's no disrespect to David Bailey, because I can't compare anything with him, because I love his stuff in the Rolling Stones era and stuff, all of that, studio stuff. But I can only see what's in front of me, and I can just see this book. So this is obviously used as a strong picture, kid with cataracts or something like that, I'm not really sure. Or this was a signature of famine and malnutrition. It's out of focus, but I get that it's a significant shot. It's very emotive, but it is out of focus. So I'm going to cover this young lady here. So we've got this sort of, it's quite, in these conditions out in Africa, it's very contrasty. The lighting is really contrasty, especially near the equator, especially in that Ethiopian region. The lighting is very, very harsh. So it is quite tricky. But then again, I've seen countless of my peers shooting out there and have done some amazing jobs out there in the same circumstances. And we use the contrast, and they use the contrast to their benefit to some degree. So got a picture of a young kid, young girl, back to front. You know, I don't know if it's daylight or it's flash. And then we've got like this series of sort of square format shots. What looks like flash with but it's the quality, it's the depth, the detail. I mean, if you took in terms of the posture and the way they are, and how they fit onto the frame and the composition, that's a really strong image. But technically, I'm lost for words with this. It's like boom, flash. The lack of depth in the detail is just phenomenal. And I know the troubles out there with shooting out there, but this is black and white film. You can play with it. Look at the flash on the head. I just think it doesn't feel like he's belonged here. It doesn't feel for me like this big name photographer's gone in and actually felt part of it. He sort of kept it from a distance. It doesn't feel like there's a connection there. Even with stuff like this, it looks like a long lens. I just don't get it. And obviously this is past now. This is 20 odd years old, you know, this is 30 years old now. But I don't get this. I really don't. I just think the quality of photography is dreadful. And it's not Bailey's strong point, this sort of stuff. But he's a professional. You know, Bailey knows what he's doing. But for me, there's no art or creativity to it. And you might question, well, why would you put art and ethics in this situation? But I think we've come to appreciate pictures which, of quality of nature, help us defend the truth of the picture and help us accept that it was a truth of a picture. When I feel that there's something lacking within the shot, like the quality of the shooter and the way it's shot, I don't accept that as the care and of attention that it should have had, and the respect you give these young kids while you're shooting it. Give them a little bit more dignity. And listen, I'm not saying Bailey's done anything wrong. Bailey's shown him in any disrespect. The fact that he's done this thing is commendable. The fact that he went out for a week is commendable. I get that. And to be honest, I'm covering that because there's just a young child there. I just don't think it's worth showing. And there's some more stuff which it's heartbreaking. I've been in these feeding centres. I've seen it, I get it. But I really tried to work on some structure with the way I was shooting and trying to, you know, there's more to it than these little kids just sitting there being fed, and there's got to be more. It's, you know, just coming out with stuff like this, I just don't like it. It's just so one-dimensional. got the beginnings of something. Maybe it's just a reproduction of the book. Maybe it's that. You know, these are quite interesting. But there's a change. I'm wondering if it is the reproduction of this book, which is, and that's such a great shot, which is really changing the format of this. Or which is really changing and making these pictures just feel really insignificant in a way. They're not saying anything. And this is, I think this is the villagers and stuff when they come in to be assessed or something for they get like the children are armbanded, and that determines how much malnutrition they've got, and the families have to wait, and people come from different villages and they wait around to be seen, and I guess that's what it is, just having seen it myself. So now we're on a bit of panoramic, wide angle panoramic. I get the fact that you're using wide angle, they do the panoramic to get it wide, but you're actually using wide angle on top of panoramic. It may be me, maybe it's me. And something here as well, where they put the frame in because the white's just kind of blend in with the white of the page. Anyway, I've been a little critical because, you know, this stuff's really important. If you're going to do it, you do it bloody white. Or you do it either white in the book process. You're not going to convince people. People are not stupid, you know. People, you're giving them stuff which is badly put together. And I wonder why you can buy this book for 1p now on the internet. It's just, I'm a bit lost with it, you know. And I'm not going to go anywhere else with some of these pictures because they're not good, and I don't want to. That's a lovely shot, but again, the print quality is awful. So I wanted to show you that, and without taking any respect away from David Bailey, he's a fine man, fine photographer. I would never question that. But I think the coming together of how this was executed, how it was presented, there's something not right about it. And if you ever end up shooting something like this, it doesn't matter who you are, just make sure that you're not make sure you do something different with it. Make sure you're not just shooting the kids and the people looking desperate, even though they are. You have to put it in some other context. And that's just my view, having photographed it myself. Go out and buy David Bailey's new book. It's about £2,000, but I think it looks amazing. And this book here, you can buy for 5p on Amazon. Thank you.